start with the AI opportunity. We'll move on to putting AI to the test, how nonprofits are using AI and its impact. We have an overview of Azure AI. We have the Transparity AI Fundraising Solution Accelerator. And then we'll finish today's session with how to leverage potential funding for envisioning an AI proof of values. So the team today who will be presenting, myself, Abby Ingalls. So I'm the not-for-profit account manager at Transparity. I'm joined by Jodie Rogers, who's our Chief AI Officer, Ash Jose from Microsoft, who's the Data and AI Specialist, and Phil Robinson, who's our AI Practice Lead. So for those of you who haven't worked with Transparity before, I just wanted to give you a very quick overview as to who we are. So we are a Microsoft pure play partner, and our technology practices focus on security, modern work, data and AI, Azure, and business applications. By focusing solely on Microsoft technology, this allows our customers to work with a single partner to help them to transform across multiple technology areas. As you can see on the slide, we hold a number of advanced specializations alongside the partner designations. So these partner designations have replaced the old legacy gold accreditations, which you may be aware of. We're also an Azure Expert MSP partner and part of the Microsoft Intelligence Security Association. The reason I wanted to touch on these quickly is that in order for us to hold these accreditations and specializations, it means that our people, processes, and customer engagements have gone through rigorous audits with Microsoft. And these accreditations allow us to leverage some specialized funding, which we'll cover at the end of the call. And it just helps our customers to accelerate projects. I'll now hand over to Jodie, who's going to run through the AI opportunity.
Thanks, Abby. And before we get into specific use cases and the exciting applications of AI, I just wanted to take a moment to touch on the AI opportunity more broadly. Next slide, please, Abby. Thank you. So since the launch of ChatGPT, which was hard to believe nearly 2 years ago now, AI has really been grabbing news headlines practically every day, and the technology has been advancing incredibly quickly, and it does feel like a full-time job to keep up with it. The reason that generative AI and large language models like ChatGPT have created so much excitement in the market, it's because of their ability to draw from a vast store of data, whilst also leveraging the massive computing power that is available in the cloud today. And what we've seen with generative AI is that it's really broken through with consumers in their day-to-day lives. So it's not just kind of tech for techies anymore. And we've seen this has created a much lower barrier to entry than your traditional data science and machine learning. Because of this, we're seeing that your employees will be wanting to consume these experiences in the tools that they use each day, and customers will come to expect AI capabilities in the services that you're offering. But for me, the really exciting aspect of all of this is the real tangible impact that this technology is driving. And today, alongside Microsoft, we're going to walk you through various examples of this, such as Age UK, who have leveraged AI to check in on the well-being of their members, and also helping them to battle loneliness. Next slide, please, Abby. Thank you. So given the number of AI technologies now available in the market and also the amount of possible uses, we can see that it can be quite challenging to know what to prioritize and where to get started. So to help you on this journey, Microsoft have released a guide for building a foundation for AI success. And as part of this research, they've basically identified and broken down 5 drivers of organizational readiness that are needed for you to be able to deliver value with AI. So what are these 5 drivers? First of all, you have business strategy. And this is really, how does AI support your business goals and the outcomes that you're looking to deliver on? Then we have technology and data strategy. Is your technology foundation in order to be able to take advantage of AI? And we're seeing that things like data governance and data quality have become more important than ever before. Then you have AI experience. What AI expertise do you need to be able to build repeatable processes that create sustainable value? Where do you buy? Where do you build? And where do you look to partner? Then you have organization and culture. And this is really around, what are your long-term ambitions? And then what are the changes that you need to make to things like your operating model, your resources, and your company culture to really be able to enable and encourage continuous learning. So this is a lot more around that kind of people and process element. And then finally, last but not least, is AI governance. And this is around what are the processes and controls and accountability structures that are needed to be able to govern things that are like data privacy, security, and then the responsible use of AI, which is where we see a lot of these kind of ethical concerns coming from. And it's around having those robust processes in place to feel comfortable and secure with what you're doing around AI. And as part of the follow-up from today, we're going to send you a link to be able to access both the white paper and the more in-depth guide that gives you a lot more information on each of these drivers, and it kind of shows you the maturity curve for each of these areas. Next slide, please, Abby. Thank you. So in today's session, we're going to focus mostly on the business and technology strategy pillars. I'm sure that many, if not all of you, have really exciting ideas at the moment, and understanding where to focus is kind of job number one. It's really important for you to be able to identify, assess, and then be able to prioritize your use cases. And through the many different organizations that we're working with around AI at the moment, it's becoming clear that there are kind of these 4 distinct areas of opportunity where AI can be leveraged to deliver real impact. So before you start going external, you might want to think about how can you make AI real for your people? Which employees and teams should you prioritize? We're seeing that AI can really enrich your employees' experiences, and it can really help you get the best out of your people and really highlight their kind of talents. What AI allows you to do in this area is it helps your employees to be able to find and check information more quickly and accurately, but it can also help them to generate new content and suggest things like new creative ideas and solutions. Then, what are the key opportunities and challenges that AI can help you to address across your donor and your member engagement journey? We're seeing that AI can and it will really reinvent this experience. We're seeing that can help with making it a lot easier for you to connect your donors with their causes, help you to understand their needs, and also allow your donors to really see where their contributions are making a real difference. And over time, every connection with your members will become something that accrues to increasing value in your relationship with them, because you can have the ability to reason over every single interaction. Next, what are those business processes that you can transform? AI is here and it's really ready to help with tasks like document processing, transcription, and knowledge management. And it can really help you to streamline and make your processes more efficient, whilst also giving you the ability to make the best possible decisions in the interest of your organization. And then finally, we're seeing that AI is empowering every organization to become more innovative. So it's providing you with tools to be able to differentiate your business and the services that you provide to help you gain that all-important competitive advantage. So to bring this to life and to make it a little bit more tangible, I'm going to hand you over to Ash, who's going to dive into some examples of where other nonprofits are already using AI and where they're already kind of seeing this increased business value. So over to you, Ash.
Thank you very much. If we go on to the next slide, this is a view of how, like all organizations, our nonprofit customers are considering what AI might mean for them. And this is in terms of taking advantage of the opportunities while mitigating the risks. CAF, or Charities Aid Foundation, are the UK's biggest connector of donors and charities. They work with so many donors and charities, and they know that charities are grappling with practical questions around technical implementation of AI, staff buy-in and training, but they are also thinking about their donors and how to engage rather than alienate them with AI. CAF spoke to about 6,000 people across 10 countries and showed them, 7 opportunities and 7 potential risks that AI presents to charities, really trying to understand that public sentiment. Overall, what they've learned is that the majority thought that the opportunities outweighed the risks, and this is a view to that, with a net positive outlook of about 15%. 70% of the respondents believed efforts should be made to help charities of different sizes and resources to access AI. In general, charities can embrace AI safe in the knowledge that the public and especially donors, and that was an interesting part of the study, especially large donors are increasingly positive about the technology. The next slide talks to how charities are engaging with AI. The Charity Digital Skills Report is the annual barometer of digital adoption, skills, attitudes, funding, and support needs across the sector. 635 charities participated in the 2024 report, and there is a section of the report that looks to understand how charities are engaging with AI. One of the interesting trends that emerged was the fact that 61% of charities are using AI tools in their day-to-day work or operations, and that is a significant increase on the 35% who were using AI tools last year. Now, within the 61%, 45% are using AI tools informally. That is, they're trying out the tools in various stages of experimentation. Only 11% are using AI tools across their organization, and a further 5% are working towards this. The most popular uses and functions of AI tools that came out were developing online content, administrative tasks like summarizing meetings and other documents, drafting reports, generating ideas, and research and information gathering. So very, very interesting insight into the way nonprofits are thinking about AI and the steps that they're taking. The next few slides go into certain customer case studies. The first is Age UK. Age UK support older people through their telephone and friendship service. They need to, of course, record and monitor all calls between volunteers and older people. Previously, this was a very time-consuming and manual process, limiting the number of older people that they could, reach out to. Today, Age UK uses Azure AI services, including speech-to-text and AI search, to transcribe all of their calls in real time and feed into an intelligent monitoring solution that is able to flag conversations as required for review. This has helped Age UK to free up volunteer time so they can match with more people through their telephone and friendship service and enable the org to better monitor calls and focus resources as needed. So a really exciting use case. The next case study is with Goodwill, a nonprofit in the US, who were looking to expand the pool of people they could hire and be more inclusive in their hiring of people who create listings for the e-commerce site shopforgoodwill.com and ease the listing process to increase sales volume and fund even more outreach. They built an AI-powered app that uses Azure AI services like our vision models and large language models to extract information about an item of clothing and then generate a description. The app is set to reduce the time it takes to create a listing by at least 35%, while allowing the nonprofit to be more inclusive in their hiring. They estimate that the app will increase clothing sales by more than a third, funding their mission. An interesting insight that came from this is also that, when you manually create descriptions, because, everything comes into the charity shops, it's not always that you know what the right price should be. But if you have an AI-powered tool that's kind of searching what similar objects are priced on eBay, then you have a much more accurate price for a particular item. And I've heard some examples of how, the people that they hired were sure that something would cost maybe $10, but when they went on eBay, they saw that it was actually $200 or something like that. So there are so many things that come into the shops, and to be able to use technology to do that in a better way has helped them drive revenue, but also helps them to be more inclusive in their hiring. And then finally, the last case study that I want to share today is Project Gutenberg. They are the oldest digital library and a leading distributor of free ebooks. They wanted to make their collection accessible to more people, including those with visual impairments and those who don't have access to traditional libraries. They built an Azure AI-driven solution to create audiobooks at scale using Azure Text-to-Speech and Azure Neural Voices to support the solution. They were able to add nearly 5,000 AI-generated audiobooks, greatly increasing the number of freely available audiobooks. So these are three very, very interesting use cases, all published within the last 1 year. And then the last slide that I want to walk you through is just talking to kind of bringing all of this together. What are some of the top Gen AI use cases that we see our nonprofits evaluate and implement? The first is certainly increasing productivity. So building intelligent chatbots or intelligent assistants that understand your vast internal knowledge bases. A lot of our nonprofits are over 100 years old, have huge archives. And so building such a chatbot that's intelligent on your knowledge base, powered by a large language model, greatly helps employees. And then also we've seen very good applications around using that knowledge to then help build proposals, documents. A lot of these, especially for one of our customers, I can't name them, take about 80 hours a week to develop some of these documents and need to be in donor-ready language. So to have a large language model already have a template that can deliver it is really powerful. And then, of course, there's so much in analytics and learning that Phil will show you specifically around fundraising that I'm very excited about. Another area is, of course, automating processes. This is a no-brainer: workflow automation and RPA, processing documents and I guess workflows that have many different components. To be able to do that in a manner that doesn't require any human intervention, such as processing and then delivering a document to certain downstream teams. Also, we see a lot of application of Gen AI in security, as you can imagine, with our security copilot and compliance. The other area is around improving user experiences. So this is donor experiences, visitor experiences, and beneficiary experiences. You can personalize the communication that goes out to them based on a customer 360. There is a lot of use cases within contact center and helplines to make them more intelligent, more efficient. One of which we saw with Age UK, and then around accessibility, again, a very interesting case study that we currently have in pipeline and we hope to bring to you soon. And then, of course, really quickly able to deploy website chatbots that are intelligent on all of your website data and help people find the right information very quickly. And then finally, the last area that we see our nonprofits use Gen AI is, of course, to build and digitize content, marketing and campaign content generation, managing your digital asset management applications and building AI into them, collections management applications, and again, infusing AI into them, and then personalized content generation. So these are some of the core use cases that we see within our nonprofits, and it is always increasing. So I will now hand off to Phil, who will take you through the most interesting part of the webinar, which is around, of course, demo and more.
Thanks, Ash. So yeah, as Ash mentioned, I'm going to start by going through some of the technology that's available within the Azure AI stack in a bit more detail. I'm going to try my very best not to bore you to tears. I've heard from some people, including my parents, that I have a tendency to drone on, so I'm going to be do my best to keep it pretty succinct for this particular audience. But yeah, where I thought I'd start with is the Azure AI services as an overview. So Ash and Jody have already touched on it quite a bit, but there are a number of different customizable pre-trained models that are available as part of the Azure AI stack. And what that really does is provides building blocks to be able to suit any needs and solve any problem that you might have using AI in a way that is not only secure but also robust. And because they're all cloud-based, they can be deployed anywhere. So this means that essentially, as those models grow, and so as those use cases grow, and as your organizations grow, the use of those models and the use of those endpoints can grow with them. And a large portion of the the capability actually scales. There's a variety of different options that can scale both in cost and size, meaning that you can use exactly the right solution for your particular use case. Within Azure AI, there are also a number of low code and no code solutions. So what this basically does is allows you to get access to some of that capability with lowering the bar, lowering the technical bar, so you can test to see if it actually works for you. And we're going to touch upon one of those particular low code, no code solutions in a second. But then before we do that, I would say that all of these have responsible AI baked in from the ground up. So that's, that covers all areas such as fairness, privacy, inclusivity, all the way through to reliability, transparency, and accountability. And really what that does is it not only gives you the confidence that what you're building is going to be deployed safely, but it also gives you the assurance that no matter what, no matter where your solution is deployed or applied, then that it will sort of benefit you and it won't be a detriment to you or the surrounding people. Next slide, please, Abby. So this lovely array over here is a top-down view of all of the capabilities within Azure AI. So Ash, as part of some of the use cases, has touched on some of these already, but just to give you a flavour, AI Vision. So AI Vision is that element where it's taking in imagery or taking in sort of different text streams, and then using optical character recognition to be able to detect what those strings are, or within using those imagery and those videos to detect patterns such as people or movement or anything like that. And where that can be really used, you've kind of seen it already, is if you analyze the imagery from a set of shelves or even from a care home, you can check for certain markers or certain indicators that are going to tell you about the behavior and therefore make preventative action. So AI speech. AI speech is really around either speech to text or text to speech. So that is, a couple of really good use cases for non-for-profits would be converting support sessions, sort of recorded support sessions into text notes and then summarizing some of those text notes to provide back to the patients. Or conversely, if people struggle to read large volumes of text, what you can do is pass through text documents through to the text-to-speech capability, and it produces a synthesized voice so that it's more natural for them to hear. AI search. AI search is one of the core pillars that sits behind a lot of this capability. At its heart, it's just a way of searching very quickly over large volumes of data that might be unstructured, such as text documents or comments from individuals, or sort of those support sessions, the text from those support sessions. But where it can be really useful is in the combination with something like AI language. So AI language does lean on some of the OCR character recognition that I mentioned before. But then what it also can do is extract things like personal information or key themes, or actually there's one that's specifically useful for non-for-profits around health analytics. So identifying key words or key themes of a medical nature, and then isolating those so they can be easily reviewed, again using something like AI search. OpenAI we've touched on quite a bit already. Due to the relationship between Microsoft and OpenAI, you can see there that GPT-4o it came out almost immediately as part of the offering for Azure OpenAI. But that gives you all that capability. That gives you all that capability that ChatGPT provides in a secure environment. We've already touched on a couple of those examples already, but we're going to go through in a second. I'm going to go through a combination of how you can use a number of these different elements into a system called RAG. Then Azure AI Studio is that low-code, no-code solution I mentioned before. So this is about, there are a number of different studios that have been built over the years. All of those now have been collated into a single sort of universal platform where you can get access to not only things like Azure OpenAI playgrounds to test, test on that capability, but also AI vision, speech, and language, and even classic machine learning models as well. Next slide, please, Abby. So AI Studio, so go a bit more into AI Studio. So what it allows you to do is to build and train your own models. So it's got a number of preset capabilities within there, both some of those endpoints I mentioned already, and also some Python and coding examples too. All of those come pre-built and available for you to build and customize. Then the ground Azure OpenAI service, there's an element within Azure AI Studio called OpenAI on your data, or it's the OpenAI on your data playground. What that does is allows you to test what that experience is going to look like in a very sort of low technical barrier kind of way. You can see if it's actually going to be very useful to you. As a part of that setup, you've got built-in vector indexing. So Azure AI models, or AI models in general, actually, particularly LLMs, function better with numbers rather than with language, with unstructured language. What vector indexing does is it turns any text into a collection of numbers, which can be read a lot faster by the GPUs that are used for Azure OpenAI. So this improves not only accuracy but also speed, and that means that your data sets can be huge, and yet you can get your responses in no time at all, and that comes built in as part of the Azure AI Studio that is there. Creating prompt flows it sort of leans into that idea I said earlier about connecting multiple elements of these together. So you may be able to connect language, search, and OpenAI together in a controlled way. And then all of this capability has that AI safety built in. So it all sort of ties together, and particularly with LLMs, because of the flexibility and capability of them, there are a number of controls that are built in as part of the Azure AI Studio around things like content filtering, so avoiding misuse or bad prompts, and also the sort of content guides, essentially. So it's making sure that they're not misused, but also they're providing safe, sort of reliable and transparent answers. There's a short video to run through that now. Abby, if you want to click that, then it's going to run through what that does. So next, I thought I'd move on to doing a bit more deep dive into the Azure OpenAI service. I'm not going to go through all of these individual components. The ChatGPT, I think, is it's had a lot of press and a lot of news, but ultimately, what the Azure OpenAI service does is it gives you all that capability. But again, not only can it be deployed within your Azure subscription, so it's secured by you. It's got all the access controls by you, and you get all the content filtering that's previously mentioned. But you can also start looking at that grounding within your data, so you can use your other Azure AI components all together in harmony as part of one of those prompts, or as some of the solution accelerators that we're going to talk about in a second. Next slide, please, Abby. So it's already been mentioned a few times before, but Azure OpenAI on your data is really game-changing when it comes to ChatGPT. So what I thought I'd do is just give you a quick flavour of what that actually looks like from the ground. What essentially happens is you can use all of the training, so the billions and millions of text records that have been used as part of ChatGPT. You can use that, and you can have your data, so your text documents, your PDFs, your Word documents, your PowerPoints, all sorts of different documents as a backdrop for it. And what that will essentially do is to hone the capability of that model, and through a combination of both the search index I mentioned earlier and also some of the system prompting, those in unison give you a model which gives you incredibly accurate answers. And we've tested, a large portion of the customers that we're working with are really starting to benefit from this power, particularly when there are large volumes of documents that they can't search over, and there's like one specific piece of information. What you can do is ask a specific question, such as what is the latest state of this medical research, and it would provide you with the latest answers and a key summary of that, using that ChatGPT summarization, give you a key summary of that capability, or those answers, without all of the extra stuff that you might get as part of a standard vanilla ChatGPT service. I'm going to move on to some of our other solution accelerators. So Abby, next slide. So these are some of the capabilities that we've been working on, and these solution accelerators are essentially designed to package some of those capabilities I've already talked about into easily accessible capabilities that can be deployed into a number of different sectors and a number of different sort of business areas. So just to touch on a couple of them, because there's quite a few here, but just to touch on a couple. So intelligent conversational agent, that is that ChatGPT RAG-based architecture. So retrieval augmented generation, if you ever hear the words RAG before. So that retrieval augmented generation capability, but for chatbots. So the idea being is that the chatbots that were mentioned previously, we can build those at speed for you and use your data to ground it very quickly and deploy it to where you need to. Visual inspection. Visual inspection is an interesting one because it's moving slightly away from that language element. Our visual inspection solution accelerator not only uses imagery to be able to detect patterns or objects, but it also uses video. So what it can do is track elements that move through a video stream. And so not only can you check things like behavioral patterns, movement behavioral patterns, but also make sure that individuals aren't in areas they shouldn't be, or that that certain symptoms. So in this particular case, when you're running an animal shelter, for example, you might want to keep an eye on all the individual animals that you're looking after, but you might not have enough hands or a pair of eyes to be able to do that. So using something like Visual Inspection Solution Accelerator, you could flag those markers automatically, then provide that output and provide that forewarning to support staff, therefore being able to help them more. And then the last one sort of highlighted is AI and fundraising. So that's the one that I want to run through in a bit more detail in a second. But ultimately, that is supporting, looking at model donor data in order to improve the efficiency of their fundraising efforts. Next slide. So let's move on to why, so the core bit of the Solution Accelerator we're here to talk about. So our AI and Fundraising Solution Accelerator is designed to essentially ingest a variety or various different data sizes, pass that data through a robust set of algorithms for use within non-profit sector specifically. So its initial capability is around analysing or predicting whether a new or recurring donor is likely to give, and giving an estimation about how much they're going to give. What it's ultimately designed to do is to help nonprofits such as yourself make informed decisions about your data, so you can tailor and tweak your marketing campaigns or your event planning. Next slide, please. So this is how we see the Solution Accelerator supporting and constantly improving your sort of marketing and your sort of marketing efforts. Sorry. So if we start by collating all that donor information together, we then pass it through the model. So this is going to isolate key insights, which I'll run through in a second. It's going to isolate some key insights for you to use. Those insights can then be passed into the design of your marketing material. That marketing material can then be pushed through and executed and pushed out to your donor base, and then you can go back around. So when you get new donors, then that data can be added in, it can be retrained, it can be redesigned, and I'm constantly improving, on your sort of marketing strategies and improving on your event planning, so that you're going to get the continuous benefit out of it. Next slide, please. So this dashboard here is, to be honest, some of the actual capability underneath within the Solution Accelerator is a little bit dry. So what we're trying to do here is to show you through the use of a Power BI dashboard what power that really is and where that can really sort of benefit you. This first screen here, you can see that there are, this is based off of an actual set of data that's been sort of anonymized and pushed through as our new Transparity dog shelter example. And from this point alone, from this first image alone, you can see that actually with the data that we have, based using the existing donors and the recurring donors that we currently have, when we've got a new set with this new cohort and this new set of donors, there's a potential, even in the one-time individual donors that you can see, the split that we've got there's potentially £23,000 worth of new funds that we can get. And click please, Abby. And if we, the benefit of having all those different attributes as part of that data set means we can start splitting it. So we can look at the difference between recurring donors, and if does that change? Does that volume of predicted donations change? And then also, as you can see from the change here, some of those attributes. So how those donations get split between things like donated time or different marketing channels or different income brackets in this particular case. This is, as I say, this is our data set, but one of the key benefits of this system is that it can combine together any data that you have about your donors and use that to train it and extend it out. Next clip, please. And then just to sort of finish on this particular area, I thought we'd look at, well, this is a pet charity. So we start by looking at, well, are pet owners actually more likely to give than not likely to give? Well, that's fairly straightforward, fairly obvious, but about 65% of people, so 65% of the total donations are going to give more. However, this is all based off of, these are all predictions. So the data that has gone in to feed this has provided these, and intuitively that does provide an answer, but it does mean that we can solidify that intuition using these predictive models. Next slide, please, Abby. This is where the real power, though, this particular view is where the real power comes in. So as part of the processing of that data and going through the solution accelerator, what you can also do is to find the key drivers of those, of the size of those predictions. So you can see here, we're looking at the average donation per donor. Now, excuse me. Now, the what we really want to try and do as using this technology is to maximize our efforts, because we can't approach everybody in every way. And because this the model itself can identify those key drivers, then we can see now that there is a cohort of people aged 31 to 50 who've donated time and have been approached through a sort of marketing flyer, are more likely, twice as likely, or likely to give twice as much as average per donation. And what this really does, where the real power of this comes from, is that there are billions of combinations. I mean, in this data set alone, there are billions of combinations that you'd have to check. So in order to do this manually, it'd be impossible. Like there are so many different permutations and different checks. If you think about that sort of in terms of scale, it would be like predicting all the lottery numbers 2 or 3 times in a row. And you'd have to do that for every combination of every donor type, every foundation. You'd have to do that across all of them, and it'd just be a completely impossible task. So what this does is provides you instantly that breakdown, and this takes minutes to run rather than days or weeks to do. Also, conversely, next clip. Also, conversely, we can look at the bottom end of the scale. So using the same idea, using the same breakdown, we can look at where the donations are the lowest. So in this case, interestingly enough, it's age 18 to 30, marketing channel flyer, and pet owners. So we can move our any efforts that we might be putting in that area away from there, because it's inefficient and it's less likely to provide us with the donations that we need to be able to support the charities that we care about. So all of that it sort of combines together and really helps us hone our strategies. Next slide, please. And then if we start to look at the how that really breaks down, we can kind of see where some of that power comes from. So if we take the example from before, where we were looking at the maximizing our donations, the cohort of people that we looked at were 31 to 50. £1, just actually 40p above the average donation size. Not particularly that interesting, but if you click again, Abby, we break it down into that different pathway. So you've got, if we look at donated time, then there's a slight increase there. But then when you start looking at that marketing channel, you see that the flyer component has a significant uplift in the donations per person. And we've gotten that. We've used the knowledge we had from before from the Solution Accelerator to be able to explore that. And that's just 3 combinations. That's just sort of 3 areas where we've decided to pick on. But actually, you can go further. So next click. So if we then go even further from there, so we use that as our start point, we can then start looking at things like region. So England is a significant uplift. And then if we go to pet owners, interestingly enough, then we get we've got a £32, an extra £12 per donation that's coming out of the back of that. And all of this can be done across your data set or even your data set that grows as well. So as it drifts or as it moves, or as you get more and more donations and more information, it can all be used to retrain and redevelop in a very short space of time and provide that capability continuously. There's a lot of tech talk in there, so I do apologise if I've bored anybody to tears, but I'm going to hand over back to Abby to talk through next steps.
Super, thanks, Phil. So we understand that you're all at a different stage of your journey. So for customers who are kind of at the earlier stages and are looking for kind of ideas, what we're looking to do is support you running a AI discovery workshop. So what we'll do in that session is bring together all of your team in person. We think it's really important to kind of get everybody in the room to make sure that everybody's got a real focus and can really collaborate together. So we'll look to bring together your exec sponsors, your business and data subject matter experts. And in this workshop, what we'll do is we'll look to identify and prioritise with you your target use cases and success criteria. And what we'll do throughout the day is we'll run into little breakout sessions and really validate these use cases and prototypes. The outcome from this workshop will be to map your use cases to a 3-horizon plan, which will look at business value versus the effort required. So at the end of that, you'll have some really formulated plans on where you can potentially move this forwards. What we'll also do is look to validate what a proof of value could look like. So we'll look at your potential first priority use case, and we'll help to align that with potential Microsoft funding. And as part of that as well, we'll look at kind of the effort that's involved to get that stood up, as well as what the predicted consumption will be. So that will really help to give you a well-rounded business case. For those of you that have kind of done that ideation phase and are ready to kind of get going, we can also move straight into doing a proof of value. So again, would run a small scoping session to kind of really understand what you're looking to achieve and align to a statement of work. And then again, give you that kind of the next granular level of information to make sure that this is a plan that you can move forward with. And again, for those ready you're really far ahead and you're ready to kind of get going and move from proof of value into deployment, we also can help support in that area as well. So as I mentioned at the start, we have a number of specializations and accreditations, which means that we can have access to specialised funding pots. And we're one of a few group of partners that has access to this funding. What this means is that we're able to help and support at any stage of your journey. So whether that's envisioning, proof of value and deployment. And what this means is this funding, unlike some of the other Microsoft funding programs, is not tied to either if you're an EA or CSP customer. So it's open to kind of both customers. So it gives you a lot more flexibility than previously some of the other funding models. And what this means is that we can start to look at, depending upon the model that you're looking for or the use case that you've got, it can be very broad. And as you can see here, it's across all of the supported technology areas. And what we will look to do is we'll look to understand what you're trying to achieve and the amount of consumption that it will generate. And what this means is that we can then start to see how much funding that you'll be able to leverage to offset the deployment effort. So for a typical proof of value, you can receive up to $10,000 of funding. But the good thing with this funding is that it is extremely flexible in that depending upon if you're at the envisioning stage, it can be used then. There's a different pot of funding under the same programme that can be used for proof of value. And then again, it can be used for the deployment phase as well. So Microsoft are really supporting you on this journey as you're starting from your first idea all the way through to fully deploying. Again, we will run through kind of the caveats with you on this. It is based on a consumption model, so obviously it is a scaling model, but the team can help support. This is also the same sort of model that you may have been aware of that's eligible for things like Fabric as well. So it's a model that can be used across both data and AI. So how to get started? So at the end of the session, we will send out a feedback form just to see if you've got any other questions, and we will open up for questions at the end of the session. But as I've mentioned briefly, there are kind of 3 areas that we can help you with, whether it's getting started with the discovery workshop and really helping you to understand and prioritize those use cases, moving through to a proof of value where we can start to help you to see those use cases and potentially leverage funding to kind of accelerate you through that journey, all the way through to making you moving you from a proof of value into production, and leveraging potentially more proof of value. So I'd just like to thank all the speakers for today, and thank you for attending the session. Please come off mute if you've got any particular questions or pop them into the chat, and we hope you've enjoyed the session. Thank you very much.
I think it's looking light on questions. We can give it a couple of minutes just to see if anything comes in. Else we'll be sending out the recording and also some of the assets that we have discussed today, like the Microsoft research report, and also access to the slide deck as well. So you can also follow up through email if there's anything else we can do to support you on this journey. Can I describe the idea of a solution accelerator? So a solution accelerator is really a framework. The idea is that it's kind of a use case repository, a little bit of a door opener in terms of helping you to get value quite quickly. So you can basically, the solution accelerators are pre-bundled AI capability that you can then apply to your own use case, your own data set. We also see a lot of the solution accelerators being bundled together. So things like transcription and sentiment analysis, for example, is kind of what Age UK would have done around their telephone friendship service. So for us, it's a kind of easy, quick way to get started. We've already got that technology framework in place, and then we're able to basically apply that to your use case and your data to help you get kind of value quite quickly. So hopefully that's explained that for you, Dave. I can see a question coming through from Vince around the breakdown of the various costs for the services and licenses. That's definitely something that we can include in the follow-up in terms of some of those pricing details. But Vince, we're also happy if there's specific kind of use cases you want to go through and scope those out in terms of what that typical consumption model would look like. We're more than happy to do a follow-up call on that as well. Phil, there's a question for you from Nico. What would be the advantages of an Azure AI RAG development compared to just using Copilot for SharePoint?
So it's a very good question. We see that sort of comparison coming up quite a lot. And essentially, the benefit of the RAG-based architecture is it can access hundreds, potentially thousands of documents very, very quickly. So what one of the components of Copilot for SharePoint is that it does use those documents. It does sort of use the SharePoint documents, but it can only access a certain volume at a time. Now, when you sort of feed in the vector, particularly the vectorization that I mentioned earlier, it means that you can have a much larger sort of pull of information that drives through to that Azure OpenAI or that ChatGPT model, and it can summarize all of that content very quickly. Whereas the Copilot Copilot example has a very specific function. It's designed as a productivity improvement tool. It's very powerful, but it is designed to do a very specific purpose. The RAG-based architecture is a similar idea, but also something that I didn't mention earlier. Well, actually, I touched upon a little bit earlier about the system prompt. So the system prompt is what really tells the chatbot or the Azure OpenAI endpoint what it's doing. When you have a RAG architecture, you can customize that to whatever you like. So it means that not only can you use your own data in the same way that Copilot does, you can use more of it, and you can do exactly, it can provide exactly the answers in whatever format you need it to. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, and just to add there, Phil, as well, I think at Transparity, we really pride ourselves on kind of taking you from that use case to, you know, what's the business outcome, what's the success criteria into a solution. Because I think with Microsoft's approach to AI, it's so comprehensive now in terms of they've got their buy option with Copilot as kind of a commodity, the extensibility piece of Copilot Studio, and then their build with kind of their custom AI solutions. And I think it really depends on a few different things such as your skill sets internally, what your current skill sets are, what you're looking to get to long term, how much customization you want, and how much of those different kind of elements of AI you want to bring into that solution. So when we kind of deliver the workshops and we have those technical scoping calls, we really kind of get into a lot of those different factors to make sure you're going to have the right long-term solution for your organization. Ash, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that from a Microsoft perspective, or if I've covered that okay.
No, I think you covered it perfectly. You know, it is a spectrum. There are things where the right fit would be the commodity license, and there will be some use cases that require certain integrations, some improvement to the prompt engineering, code development, custom development, and that's where the RAG-based development comes into play. And those generally tend to be the more impactful use cases, because of course Copilot is for productivity. It lives within M365, and then the use cases of high impact may integrate directly with core applications and other such data.
Thanks, Ash. I think we're nearly on time, so if there's not any more questions, we can give everyone 1 minute back. But thank you all so much for joining today. We've really appreciated your participation, and we'll be reaching out with the promised follow-ups. Cool. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thank you all.